Captain Aiden Prescott sat at the helm of the Earthship Polaris, his eyes scanning the shimmering expanse of space that stretched endlessly before him. The starry canvas remained deceptively peaceful until a faint ping echoed across the ship's console. Aiden's gaze snapped toward the display where a faint blip, an unidentified vessel, had appeared near the outer marker of the Solarian drift. It was well beyond the usual trade lanes. "Commander Wright," Aiden called. His second-in-command, a burly, no-nonsense man with a buzz cut and a sharp gaze, stepped up beside him. "Another trader passing through?" Wright asked, squinting at the screen. "Not sure yet. The profile doesn't match any known vessels. Could be a new kind of scout," or Aiden's voice trailed off. "Or trouble," Wright finished for him. "Not necessarily," Aiden replied. "Let's keep it calm. Open a channel." A few tense seconds passed before a shimmering image appeared on the main view screen. The alien was striking, with angular, almost feline features. Her hair gleamed like liquid silver, and her golden eyes regarded them coolly. She wore a suit of lightweight armor that appeared almost ceremonial in its intricacy. "This is Captain Aiden Prescott of the United Earth Defense Fleet," Aiden began. "We noticed your ship approaching the outer marker. Please identify yourself and state your purpose." The alien woman's lips curved into a faint smile, though her posture remained regal, her voice steady. "I am Kira N. Talith of the Sci-Fi Dominion. Your presence here is irrelevant to me, human. I am merely passing through." "Passing through where, exactly?" Wright muttered, earning a warning glance from Aiden. "Captain," Kira N. continued, ignoring Wright, "I trust your people understand the concept of private travel." "We do," Aiden replied evenly. "But unregistered vessels passing so close to a monitored border usually raise some questions. If you could provide questions?" Kira N. interrupted. "I didn't realize your kind had such authority over the galaxy. But very well." She crossed her arms. "I seek information on a particular artifact that may be located in your sector. I assumed your organization might have records." Aiden and Wright exchanged a look. "We can review what we have," Aiden said carefully. "Perhaps you'd like to discuss this in person? I'm sure our database officers can help you locate what you're looking for." Kira N's smile returned, sharper this time. "I doubt that very much, Captain. But I'm willing to humor you. Prepare a docking bay." The screen went dark, leaving Aiden and Wright to process what had just transpired. "Well," Wright said after a beat, "she's got some attitude." "Maybe," Aiden said, "but let's give her the benefit of the doubt. For now." A short time later, the airlock cycled open and Kira N stepped aboard, her silver hair catching the sterile light of the corridor. Aiden and Wright stood waiting to greet her. Wright remained slightly behind Aiden, his stance guarded, while Aiden offered a neutral smile. "Welcome aboard," Aiden said. "This is Commander Wright, my second-in-command." Kira N's golden gaze swept over them both, lingering on Wright for a moment before returning to Aiden. "Charming," she said, her tone making it clear she didn't mean it. "Lead the way, Captain." As they moved through the ship's corridors, Wright whispered to Aiden, "She's not exactly the friendly type, is she?" "Keep your thoughts to yourself," Aiden replied under his breath. In the Polaris's main conference room, Kira N sat at the head of the long table, her posture still perfect, her expression unyielding. Aiden and Wright took seats opposite her, while a junior officer set a datapad on the table and began pulling up various records. "So," Kira N began, "what can your Earth records tell me about the artifact of Telenar?" "Telenar?" Wright asked. "Sounds more like something out of a hollow novel." Kira N ignored him, focusing entirely on Aiden. "I was told your archives contain records of early spacefarers who passed through this region, some of whom may have had contact with the artifact. Some of the older colony ships logged encounters with strange artifacts," Aiden said. "But their records are incomplete at best. Many of those ships were lost or their data corrupted." "I am aware of that," Kira N said. "What I need from you is access to what remains. I am prepared to negotiate." Wright raised an eyebrow. "Negotiate what exactly?" "Last I checked, we're not in the habit of giving out classified records to every stranger who shows up at our border." Aiden shot Wright another warning glance before turning back to Kira N. "What Commander Wright means is that we need to understand why you're interested. If we're to cooperate, transparency would help." Kira N regarded them both for a long moment. "Your cooperation is noted, Captain. I'll tell you this much. The artifact is a key to a technology we've long sought to reclaim. It is a part of our history, a part of who we are. So it's not a weapon? Aiden pressed. Kieran's expression hardened. It is not your concern what it is, only that it remains out of the hands of those who would misuse it. Sounds like a weapon, Wright muttered. Enough, Aiden said sharply. He leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. If we're going to help you, we need to trust each other. That starts with honesty, Kieran. Kieran's golden eyes narrowed, but after a moment, her shoulders eased ever so slightly. Very well, I will tell you what I can. But if I find that you've withheld anything from me, our dealings will be over. Aiden nodded. Fair enough. For the next several hours, the three of them worked together, reviewing old data logs, cross-referencing star charts, and sifting through long-abandoned colony reports. Wright eventually warmed to the task, offering the occasional wry comment that, to everyone's surprise, drew faint smirks from Kieran. Despite her initial coldness, Kieran's sharp intellect and unyielding determination impressed Aiden. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, human or otherwise. And as they worked, he began to sense a subtle shift in her demeanor, a willingness to engage, a curiosity about his people that she no longer tried to conceal. When the search yielded a promising lead, a series of coordinates from a long-lost survey ship, Kieran's eyes lit with something close to genuine excitement. These might be the ones, she said, her voice softer than before. Then we've got a heading, Aiden said, standing and offering her a hand. Shall we? Kieran hesitated, her gaze lingering on his outstretched hand. Finally, she took it, and for the first time since her arrival, she smiled, tentative but real. The Polaris drifted silently through space, the faint glow of a distant nebula casting a muted light across the bridge. Aiden stood at the viewport, arms crossed, as he studied the horizon. The tension from Kieran's arrival had not fully dissipated, but he couldn't deny the curiosity she had stirred. Wright approached, a steaming cup in hand. "CAF?" he asked, holding it out to Aiden. "Thanks," Aiden said, taking the cup and sipping carefully. "Where's our guest?" "In the observation lounge," Wright replied. "She asked for access to more logs. I told the tech crew to give her a terminal." Aiden turned back to the viewport, his expression thoughtful. "What do you think about her?" Wright snorted. "I think she's got a chip the size of a moon on her shoulder." "She's not wrong about some of the things she said," Aiden said. "Our history in this part of space is messy. Maybe she has good reason to be wary." Wright raised an eyebrow. "You really buying her whole noble quest bit?" Aiden sighed. "I'm not sure, but I want to find out." Wright crossed his arms. "You know, she's not the first CIRNRE we've run into, but she's the first one who's stuck around to talk. Makes you wonder what's so special about this artifact." "Exactly," Aiden said. He took another sip of the CAF. "Guess there's only one way to find out." In the observation lounge, Kieran was seated at the terminal, her long fingers gliding across the interface with precision. The soft glow of the screen highlighted her sharp features. Aiden stepped in, Wright following close behind. "Any progress?" Aiden asked, keeping his tone light. Kieran glanced over her shoulder, her expression unreadable. "Some. Your records are limited." "We're not a library," Wright quipped, leaning casually against the wall. Kieran ignored him and returned her attention to the terminal. "I found references to a scout vessel that may have crossed paths with the artifact. The logs mention a cluster of uncharted worlds at the edge of your mapped space." Aiden pulled up a chair and sat beside her. "That's a start. What else do you know about these worlds?" "Not much," Kieran admitted. "The records are fragmented, but the descriptions match what I've read in our archives. If I can get close enough, I may be able to locate the artifact." "May?" Wright asked. "Doesn't sound very certain." "It's a lead," Aiden said, cutting off Wright's skepticism. He looked at Kieran. "If we go there, how dangerous is it likely to be?" Kieran hesitated, then sighed. "The artifact isn't the only thing of value in that sector. Other parties may be looking for it as well." "Parties like who?" Wright asked. Kieran glanced at him briefly before returning her gaze to Aiden. "The CIRNRE aren't the only civilization with knowledge of the artifact. Some would use it for less honorable purposes." "Great," Wright muttered. "So it's not just a treasure hunt, it's a race." "Which is why time is of the essence," Kieran said. She stood, her posture as straight as ever. "If you're willing to assist me, we need to leave soon." Aiden rose to his feet, his brow furrowed in thought. "This isn't something I can agree to lightly. If we head into uncharted space, we'll need to prepare." Kieran folded her arms. "I thought your kind thrived on exploration. Or is that just a myth?" "We thrive on not getting killed," Wright interjected. "Big difference." Aiden shot him a look before turning back to Kira. We'll need more information. Supplies. And if we're bringing the Polaris into unknown territory, we'll need to make sure she's ready for anything. Kira's lips pressed into a thin line, but she nodded. Very well. I'll provide what information I have. Just be quick. The next few days were a blur of activity. Aiden and Wright worked side by side, running system checks, restocking the Polaris's inventory, and poring over every scrap of data they could find. Despite their initial tension, Wright found himself warming to the challenge. You know, Wright said one evening as they worked on a navigation calibration, this might not be such a bad gig. Exploring uncharted worlds, chasing down a mystery. Kinda feels like the old days. Aiden smiled faintly. If we survive it. Always the optimist, Wright joked. He tightened a bolt and leaned back, his expression more serious. But seriously, what do you make of her? Kira, she's got that whole alien ice queen vibe, but I get the feeling there's more to her. Aiden set down his tool and leaned against the console. I think she's genuinely searching for this artifact. And I think she's used to being in control. But there's something else, something she's not telling us. Like what? Wright asked. Aiden shook his head. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's important enough for her to be here, dealing with us. Wright chuckled. Well, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you, boss. You've got that whole let's give peace a chance thing going on. Aiden smirked. Maybe. Or maybe I just know a good story when I see one. By the time the Polaris was ready, Kira had gathered enough data to establish a preliminary route. The ship hummed with energy as the engines came online, and the crew settled into their stations. Aiden and Wright stood together on the bridge, the viewport displaying the vast stretch of uncharted space before them. Let's see where this takes us, Aiden said quietly. Right behind you, Wright replied. Kira entered the bridge, her steps measured. She stood to Aiden's left, her eyes fixed on the viewport. Ready? Aiden asked. Kira nodded. As ready as I'll ever be. Aiden turned to his crew. Set course for the uncharted cluster. Engage when ready. As the Polaris surged forward, Aiden couldn't shake the feeling that they were embarking on something far greater than a simple search. Whatever lay ahead, he knew they'd face it together. The Polaris was now deep in uncharted space, far from the established star lanes and human colonies. Stars, some brighter than others, glittered against the void. Aiden sat at the bridge's central console, watching the streams of data scrolling across the monitors. Beside him, Wright leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. You'd think a super-advanced alien civilization would have better maps, Wright muttered, breaking the silence. Apparently even the Saranari aren't omniscient, Aiden said, keeping his tone neutral. Wright smirked. Just don't let her hear you say that. She might vaporize us on the spot. She's not that bad, Aiden said. Wright turned, raising an eyebrow. Not that bad? Come on, Captain. She barely tolerates us. She's warming up, Aiden countered. You'll see. Their exchange was interrupted by the hiss of the bridge doors sliding open. Kira strode in, her usual cool demeanor firmly in place. She moved with purpose, her long coat sweeping the floor as she approached them. Captain Prescott, Commander Wright, she began. We've detected a faint signal from the coordinates. It appears to be a distress beacon. Distress beacon? Wright repeated, sitting up straighter. Who out here needs rescuing? Kira's golden eyes narrowed. It's not one of ours. Possibly another scavenger who got too close to the artifact's location. Aiden exchanged a look with Wright. Do you think it's a trap? It's possible, Kira said. But if someone is in need of assistance, we should investigate. Wright, prepare an away team, Aiden said. We'll check it out. Kira raised an eyebrow. You're personally going down there? It's my ship, Aiden said firmly. I'm not sending my crew into unknown territory without seeing it myself. The shuttle descended toward the barren, rocky surface of the planet. From orbit, it had appeared as little more than a gray-brown sphere with scattered craters. Now, as they drew closer, Aiden could see jagged mountain ranges and vast stretches of flat, cracked ground. The distress signal was coming from one of those flatlands near a cluster of boulders that looked as though they'd been dropped from orbit. Wright piloted the shuttle while Aiden and Kira sat in the rear. She was unusually quiet, her gaze fixed on the window. Something on your mind? Aiden asked. Kieran didn't look away from the window. I've encountered traps like this before. If someone is trying to lure us in, they're either very confident or very desperate. Well, we'll be careful, Aiden said. That's why we're here together. She glanced at him then, her golden eyes sharp. Your faith in teamwork is peculiar. I'm not used to humans operating this way. Aiden shrugged. I've always believed 2 heads are better than 1. Or 3 in this case. He nodded toward Wright. 4, actually Wright added from the pilot's seat. Don't forget Gibbons. He's got the heavy gear. Kieran's expression softened almost imperceptibly. For heads then. The shuttle touched down, sending up a plume of dust. As the engines powered down, Aiden grabbed his helmet and sealed it in place. Kieran did the same while Wright and Gibbons, one of the Polaris's engineers, checked their equipment. The airlock cycled open and the 4 of them stepped onto the surface. The ground crunched beneath their boots as they moved toward the signal source. There, Kieran said, pointing. A sleek, angular craft lay partially buried in the dirt, its nose crumpled from a hard landing. The distress beacon was flashing weakly from its dorsal fin. Small ship, Wright noted. Couldn't have more than 2 or 3 people on board. If they're still alive, Gibbons muttered. Aiden approached the craft carefully, scanning for any signs of movement. The exterior was scorched and several panels had been torn away, exposing charred wires and sparking conduits. Looks like they crashed hard, Aiden said. Let's see if we can get inside. Kieran stepped forward, examining the hull. She touched one of the exposed wires and flinched back when it sparked. The power core's unstable. We need to move quickly. Right, help me with the hatch, Aiden said. Together, they pried open the ship's side hatch. A cloud of stale air hissed out and the 4 of them stepped inside. The interior was dark, illuminated only by the faint glow of emergency lights. The corridors were narrow, lined with what looked like storage lockers and control panels. Aiden led the way, his scanner beeping steadily as they followed the distress signal. In the main cabin, they found the pilot, a humanoid figure slumped over the console. Kieran moved forward, checking for signs of life. They're alive, she said, relief evident in her tone. But barely. Aiden nodded. Let's get them out of here. Right, Gibbons, help me carry them. As they lifted the pilot, a loud crack echoed through the ship. The hull groaned and a shower of sparks rained down from the ceiling. What was that? Wright demanded. Kieran turned sharply. The power core. It's destabilizing. Aiden gritted his teeth. We've got to move. Gibbons, take point. Wright, you and I will carry the pilot. Kieran, can you guide us out? Kieran nodded, already moving toward the exit. This way. They stumbled through the narrow corridors as the ship's structure trembled around them. Aiden and Wright worked in unison, carefully maneuvering the injured pilot. Behind them, Gibbons kept his rifle at the ready, glancing back as sparks and smoke filled the air. Almost there, Kieran called from ahead. The group emerged into the open just as the ship let out a deafening roar. A burst of flame shot out from the hull and the ground shook beneath their feet. They all staggered but kept moving, carrying the pilot toward the waiting shuttle. As they reached the shuttle's ramp, Aiden and Wright gently set the pilot down. Kieran immediately began assessing the alien's condition, her movements quick and precise. He's stable for now, she said. But we need to get him back to the Polaris. Right, Aiden said, turning to his second-in-command, get us airborne. Wright nodded and hurried into the shuttle. The engines roared to life and the vessel lifted off, leaving the smoldering wreckage behind. Aiden knelt beside Kieran as she continued tending to the pilot. What do you think? Will he make it? I believe so, Kieran said. Her voice was softer than usual, almost gentle. But I'll need your medics to confirm. Aiden watched her for a moment, then glanced at Wright, who was piloting the shuttle with his usual steady hand. Nice work, everyone, he said quietly. Wright smirked over his shoulder. All in a day's work, Captain. As the shuttle cleared the planet's atmosphere, Aiden leaned back, the tension in his S. Against the metallic floors. The alien pilot they'd rescued, Reiner, remained in the mebay under close observation. Kieran had been visiting him frequently, often without a word to Aiden or anyone else. Wright broke the silence as they approached the medbay doors. She's been in there for hours. What do you think she's after? Answers, Aiden replied, his gaze fixed ahead. Just like us. The medbay doors slid open, revealing Kieran standing at the foot of Reiner's bed. Her back was to them, her silver hair gleaming under the sterile lights. Reiner, still weak, looked up at them, his orange-hued skin paler than it had been before. Kieran, Aiden said softly. How's he doing? She turned to face them, her expression guarded. Stable, for now. Reiner tried to sit up, his voice a strained whisper. You shouldn't have come for me. You sent out a distress signal, Aiden said, stepping closer. Why wouldn't we come? Reiner shook his head weakly. It wasn't meant for you. It was meant for someone else. Kieran's gaze sharpened. Who? Who were you expecting? Reiner hesitated, his breathing shallow. The artifact's location is known to more than just me. There are others out here, others who will come looking for it. Aiden exchanged a glance with Wright, then returned his focus to Reiner. If that's true, we need to know exactly who these others are and what they're planning. Reiner's lips pressed into a thin line. I can't tell you that. You don't understand the stakes. We're here, aren't we? Wright said, crossing his arms. If we didn't care about the stakes, we wouldn't have pulled you out of that wreck. A faint flicker of gratitude crossed Reiner's face, but it quickly vanished. You shouldn't be here. The artifact, it's not just some relic. It's a source of power that could tip the balance of any conflict. Then we need to secure it before someone else does, Aiden said firmly. Reiner looked away, his voice barely audible. If you do, it will make you a target. Later, in the Polaris's conference room, Aiden, Wright, and Kieran gathered to discuss their next move. A holographic star map hovered above the central table, displaying the uncharted region where the artifact was supposedly hidden. We can't just ignore what Reiner said, Wright began. If there are others out here gunning for the artifact, we need to be ready for trouble. Trouble is inevitable, Kieran said, her tone cold. But Reiner knows more than he's telling. Until he speaks, we're flying blind. Aiden frowned, studying the map. He said he didn't want us involved. Maybe he's afraid we'll draw attention. Or maybe he doesn't trust us, Kieran said sharply. And why should he? Humans have a history of meddling in matters that don't concern them. Enough, Aiden said, his voice firm. He turned to Kieran. I know you think we're out of our depth, but we're here now and we're not going to back down. If Reiner won't talk, we'll have to find the artifact without him. And when we do? Wright asked. What's the plan then? We secure it, study it, and figure out how to keep it safe, Aiden replied. That's a lot of ifs, Captain, Wright said, leaning back in his chair. It's the best we've got, Aiden said. Kieran folded her arms, her gaze icy. If you're serious about this, you'll need more than guesswork and good intentions. The artifact is not just another prize to be claimed. It's Aiden, Wright interrupted, nodding toward the doorway. Reiner stood there, pale and unsteady but upright. He gripped the frame for support. If you're going after the artifact, he said, his voice weak but resolute, I'll guide you. Kieran's eyes narrowed. Why the change of heart? Reiner took a halting step into the room. Because I'd rather it be you than the ones who are really after it. Aiden stepped forward. We appreciate the help. But if you're coming with us, we need full transparency. No more holding back. Reiner nodded. I'll tell you what I know. Just promise me you'll keep it out of the wrong hands. You have my word, Aiden said. Kieran's gaze remained skeptical, but she said nothing. The Polaris altered course, guided by the coordinates Reiner provided. Aiden and Wright spent hours reviewing the data while Kieran lingered near the viewport, her eyes fixed on the distant stars. It was the first time since they'd met her that she appeared unsettled. What's on your mind? Aiden asked, stepping up beside her. She hesitated before speaking. Reiner's decision to help us, it's not what I expected. You think he's hiding something? Perhaps. Or perhaps he's more desperate than he lets on. Aiden crossed his arms. You don't trust him. I don't trust anyone easily, she admitted. Not humans. Not even my own people. Why? Kieran looked at him, her golden eyes reflecting the light from the viewport. Because trust is a weakness. One that can be exploited. Maybe, Aiden said. But it can also be a strength. You can't do everything alone. She tilted her head, a hint of curiosity in her expression. And you believe that? That relying on others makes you stronger? Aiden nodded. Yeah, I do. I wouldn't have made it this far without Wright or the rest of my crew. And I think, deep down, you know that too. Kieran's gaze lingered on him for a moment before she turned back to the stars. We'll see, Captain. We'll see. As the Polaris neared its destination, tensions ran high. Reiner's condition improved enough for him to join Aiden and Kieran on the bridge. Wright stood at his usual station, monitoring the ship's systems. Coming up on the coordinates, Wright announced. Looks like a planetary system, but the readings are off. Something's not right. Aiden leaned forward. What kind of readings? Fluctuating gravity wells, strange energy signatures. It's not natural, Wright said. Reiner's expression darkened. That's the artifact's influence. It distorts the environment around it. Great, Wright said. Now we just have to land on a planet that's actively trying to crush us. We'll manage, Aiden said. Reiner, where do we set down? Reiner pointed to a cluster of craters on the planet's surface. There. The artifact should be located in the central cavern. All right, Aiden said. Everyone, Get ready. This is it. As the Polaris descended toward the turbulent surface, the crew braced themselves for the challenges ahead. They were stepping into the unknown, but they were doing it together. The planet's surface was a landscape of chaos. Aiden, Wright, and Kieran stood just beyond the ramp of the Polaris's shuttle, surveying the warped environment that stretched before them. Sharp, jagged ridges jutted from the ground, casting deep shadows that seemed to move in the unsteady light. The sky was a dark swirl of cloud-like formations, pulsating with a strange energy. "Lovely place," Wright muttered, gripping his rifle tightly. "Really makes you want to settle down and build a summer home." Aiden smirked. "I'll take that as your way of saying you're ready." Wright snorted. "Ready as I'll ever be. Let's just hope we don't end up like the last guy who came looking for this thing." Kieran stepped forward, her silver hair catching the odd luminescence in the air. "The artifact's influence is strongest here. Stay close, and be prepared for unusual occurrences." "You mean more unusual than the ground shifting under our feet?" Wright asked, pointing to a distant ridge that seemed to ripple like water. Kieran didn't respond, her attention fixed on a set of distant spires that jutted out of the terrain. "That way," she said, her voice low but firm. Aiden nodded. "Lead on." The trek was arduous. The terrain seemed to shift and twist as they walked, forcing them to rely heavily on their scanners to maintain any sense of direction. Wright grumbled under his breath, his eyes darting from side to side. Aiden, despite his own unease, kept his focus on Kieran, who moved with steady determination. After nearly an hour of navigating the chaotic landscape, they reached a vast canyon. In its center stood the spires Kieran had pointed out earlier. They were taller now, more jagged, and they shimmered faintly in the eerie light. "This is it," Kieran said, coming to a stop. Aiden glanced at her. "What can we expect when we get closer?" "The artifact is inside those structures," she said. "The energy will intensify. You may feel disoriented." "Great," Wright said. "So what's the plan? Grab it and run." Kieran's lips tightened. "You don't simply grab something like this. It must be contained properly. And we must be prepared for interference." "Interference from who?" Aiden asked. "Others," Kieran said cryptically. "It's possible they followed us here." Wright let out a low whistle. "Fantastic. Just what we needed. More company." "We'll deal with it," Aiden said. "Let's keep moving." As they approached the spires, the atmosphere grew heavier. The ground beneath their feet felt unstable, as though it might collapse at any moment. A faint humming sound filled the air, growing louder with each step. "Anyone else hear that?" Wright asked, his voice tinged with nervousness. "I hear it," Aiden said. He glanced at Kieran. "Is this normal?" Kieran nodded. "It's the artifact's energy field. We're close." The humming became a throbbing pulse as they entered the canyon. In the center of the spires stood a massive, glowing structure. It wasn't metallic or stone, but something in between, a swirling, translucent mass that pulsed with light. "The artifact." "There it is," Kieran said, her voice almost a whisper. Wright stopped and stared at it. "Okay, I'll admit that's pretty impressive." Aiden stepped closer, his eyes fixed on the artifact. "What now?" Kieran reached into a small pouch on her belt and pulled out a slender device. "We need to stabilize it. The field it generates is dangerous. If we don't contain it properly, it could destroy everything nearby." "Define nearby," Wright said, taking a cautious step back. Kieran ignored him, moving toward the artifact with careful precision. Aiden followed, watching as she adjusted the device in her hands. "I'll need you to help steady it," Kieran said to Aiden without looking at him. "Steady it?" "How?" he asked. She glanced at him briefly. "Place your hand here." She gestured to a section of the artifact's surface that glowed faintly. "It will respond to touch, but you must remain calm. If you panic, the field will destabilize." Wright crossed his arms. "What about me?" "Stay alert," Kieran said. "You'll know what to do if something goes wrong." "That's reassuring," Wright muttered. Aiden stepped forward, his hand hovering above the artifact's surface. He took a deep breath and placed his palm against the glowing section. The artifact pulsed once, then steadied. He could feel a strange warmth under his hand, almost like a heartbeat. Kieran began adjusting the device, her movements precise. "Good," she said. "Keep it steady." "I'm trying," Aiden said, his voice tense. "What's it doing?" It's synchronizing with the containment field, Kira-en explained. Once it stabilizes, we can transport it. And if it doesn't stabilize? Wright asked. Then we all die, Kira-en said matter-of-factly. Wright let out a low groan. I knew you'd say that. For several minutes, Aiden held his position, the artifact's pulse gradually evening out. Kira-en worked quickly, her focus unwavering. Wright stood nearby, his rifle at the ready, scanning the surroundings for any sign of trouble. Almost there, Kira-en said. Aiden's hand trembled slightly. How much longer? Just a moment more, she replied. Stay calm. I'm calm, Aiden muttered through gritted teeth. Totally calm. Kira-en adjusted the final setting on the device. The artifact's glow dimmed slightly and the pulse became a steady rhythm. It's done, she said, stepping back. You can let go. Aiden pulled his hand away slowly, flexing his fingers. That was intense. You handled it well, Kira-en said, her voice softer than usual. Thank you. Aiden glanced at her, surprised by the sincerity in her tone. Anytime. Wright rolled his shoulders, clearly relieved. So, we've got it. Now what? Now we return to the Polaris, Kira-en said. And we make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. The journey back to the shuttle was uneventful, though the atmosphere remained heavy. Aiden carried the artifact in a reinforced containment unit, Kira-en guiding him through the safest path. Wright walked slightly ahead, his rifle still at the ready. Think anyone else is going to show up? Wright asked over his shoulder. Unlikely, Kira-en said. The energy field would have destabilized if they were nearby. Let's not take any chances, Aiden said. Stay alert. When they reached the shuttle, Aiden placed the containment unit inside a secure compartment. Kira-en monitored the artifact's readings while Wright prepared for liftoff. As the shuttle ascended, leaving the chaotic planet behind, Aiden finally allowed himself a moment to breathe. They had the artifact, they were still alive, and now they had a chance to figure out what it all meant. Nice work, everyone, Aiden said, glancing at Kira-en and Wright. Yeah, not bad, Wright said. Still wish we didn't have to deal with glowing death traps, though. Kira-en glanced at Aiden. Your crew is capable. Aiden smiled faintly. They're the best. As the shuttle entered the Polaris's hangar, Aiden couldn't help but feel a flicker of optimism. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together.